Hello, everybody, and welcome to Action and Adventure, the Hasbro Universe podcast. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm your other host, Callum.
Yes, and today we have a pretty busy day. Today we're going to be talking about the Hasbro Heroes Sourcebook, number 1, ROM number 11, Lost Light number 6, Optimus Prime number 8, Transformers Salvation, Revolutionaries number 5, and First Strike number 0. It's a busy week today.
Yeah, they've kind of... I guess the thing with the way IDW is shipping stuff at the minute is that every now and then everything just kind of piles up at once.
Yes. Alright. So, there's not really any news to cover this week, so we're just gonna jump right in and talk about the Sourcebook,
which was officially released this week, but was released early on iTunes.
Yes.
iTunes.
Yes, which you can gather from our last episode where we briefly touched on it and some of the spoilers that were in there. Now, Callum, because certain profiles did spoil certain events, are there any profiles that you skipped?
On initial reading, Okay. Centurion and Atomic Man, so I was informed were,
Now, have you...
the Revolutionary spoilers.
Now, I assume you've gone back and read Centurions.
I have, yes.
But have you...
I'm still clean on Atomic Man.
Okay, alright, so, well, we'll get into that. Now, as most of you know, I like to have my physical copies, but I actually still don't have a physical copy of the Hasbro Heroes Sourcebook, because I didn't tell my store to pre-order them for me, and they didn't get any copies in, so that's on me. But I do have my digital copies, so which I had read the week prior. So, Callum, what did you think of the Hasbro Heroes Sourcebook?
Well, it's very nice, isn't it? I was going to say everyone loves a nice profile book, but perhaps not. But
I don't think there's anyone who dislikes. I don't think there's anyone who's sitting in their chair being like, "Oh, those damn source books, damn profiles, I hate them."
But yeah, it's a nice thing to have, especially when kind of with something like this that's kind of a new endeavor. It's kind of nice to have that because they're all written by the kind of people who are currently writing those characters. So it lets them sort of, I don't know, I guess kind of solidify their kind of take on the character a bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly a fan of profile books, and I really like this, and I really like these, especially because they're all written by the individual writers of the series that have... of these individual series that the character is from. So, for instance, Gloria Baker is written by Brandon Easton, or Axiom is written by Chris Ryle, that kind of thing. And I really like that, they're kind of letting each individual writer reveal how much they want of the character. Because that's the thing, because we have things like the Axiom profile, which is... which reveals a lot of the backstory for Aaron Grundy. But then we have things like, say, the Dave Dubosky profile, which, outside of mentioning that he's an astronaut who worked for G.I. Joe, doesn't really give us a whole lot more information about the character. As far as their history goes. But then you have things like Bullet Man, who... is a character we don't really need the backstory for, and yet we do. And personally, Bullet Man is one of my favorite entries in this because of how deep cut it gets, referencing...
This is the time, to discuss the Bullet Man profile and
so I guess first off, though, before we get to the profiles, let's talk about the story that's included. The
true,
four-pager.
Roadies.
Yes. Now, this was something that was hinted at with Julio's... Was it hinted at with Julio's trading card or
yes.
Rock and Roll?
Well, no, it wasn't ever hinted that they had a thing together. Julio's trading card established that he was in a band, whilst
right, the Cold Crawlers,
and established that Rock and Roll had a sort of like bumming about around being a roadie phase. But I don't think it drew a link between them. That was something new, I think.
Yeah,
Cold Crawlers is the slightly strange name for Julio's band.
Yeah, which, like, when I first heard that, I was like, wait, isn't there, like a G.I. Joe, like, Cobra was Cold
Slither, yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember if that off the top, I couldn't remember if that was legit.
It is it's oddly similar to the degree that you have to kind of wonder, surely this is intentional, but if it is, why is it different? And it's kind of, but
but I mean, there's not much to say about it. It's a short little story that sees Rock and Roll save Julio's equipment from getting stolen, and then they meet up at the end and just kind of like, hey, thanks, man. It's like, no problem. And it's like, we're gonna be working together in a few years. Yeah.
Because it's a question. I mean, obviously this is before Julio joins M.A.S.K, but is this before, like, Rock and Roll is in G.I. Joe? There's nothing really to.
I mean,
say,
I feel like we gotta assume, right, that it's.
Because I mean, I guess in theory he could be like hanging around, like, I don't know, whilst G.I. Joe is shut down or something, because that's like the thing that's happened in the recent past.
True.
I suppose actually there's not really been any indication of how long ago Julio was in med school, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, he's still rocking that little beard. What's that style referred to as? Like when it's like just the end? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have facial hair.
But yeah, it's not kind of a hugely substantial story, but it's neat what it is, and the art is nice. Robert Atkins, the guy who does lots of G.I. Joe stuff.
So Roadies is a solid little story, and I like the fact that we're getting these stories. I'm really looking forward to next issue, where we're getting Bryce and Cup, I believe. Yes.
And then I want to say Threes was just described as being a lead-in to First Strike.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm down.
Right.
So let's briefly touch on some of the profiles. Some of them are reprints from, like, they've been included in either annuals for the individual series, or originally Revolution was where we saw these. Like a Croyer, Action Man, they were previously printed, but now we have a few new ones, including Aileron and RC. And I really like how they are including, that's the thing. I felt like, I was worried that we wouldn't be including any Transformers, but the fact that we are is like, like outside of just the typical Optimus Prime and Soundwave, I'm digging.
Yeah, it's kind of, they're leading towards kind of the main casts of each book. So here we've got
but obviously focusing on the Optimus Prime characters rather than Till All Are One or.
Well, I mean, once we get down through the alphabet, we'll get to Windblade and Starscream, no doubt.
Yeah.
Like, they've got to be in it, I assume.
Yeah, but, like, we definitely, there's no, like, Cyclonus or anything in this, so.
Actually, that is a good point. It is sort of, it's keeping things to the sort of Earth-based sort of part of the universe that's actually interacting with each other. Yeah, I would be surprised if there are any Lost Light profiles in this series.
And I don't think we got any new information in Ailerons or RCs about sort of. I don't think we.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so then we got Atomic Man, which again, spoilers for Revolutionaries number 6.
Yes, it will be on it.
So I don't want to touch on that, but we have gotten. Barber did share recently on Twitter. A little sneak peek at Atomic Man's backstory, where he was a boy detective, in the Encyclopedia Brown kind of tradition. I don't know. Do you guys have those books over there?
I don't think so. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to say no.
These are the kind of cultural clashes we have here on this podcast.
And actually, just speaking of cultural clashes now, I have to mention, because across the page from Atomic Man is Gloria Baker's profile. Gloria Baker, who, her backstory is that, she grew up in the UK, but in issue, I think maybe 2 of M.A.S.K, Easton had her use Fanny in the American sense, rather than in the British sense.
Fanny
they have very different meanings.
Wait, what does it mean over in England?
It is, rather... I'm trying to think how to put this tactfully. Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, rather more sexual nature.
Oh. See, over here it just means, like, your butt,
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
well.
so,
I don't think there's any kids listening to this podcast, so good thing we don't have to worry about cutting that out. But yeah.
So we've got Gloria Baker,
who seen Axiom, again seen. Baron Digon is a new one.
Yes, new one.
Spelled like it was originally spelled in issue 2 rather than what it was from issue 3 onwards. But I don't know if it's actually that big of a deal because he's like he's probably not going to be appearing anymore.
No,
anytime
I guess
soon,
not, because this does acknowledge that Digon was defeated and captured.
Yeah. Okay, so like leaving the potential for him to come back, but probably not.
But yeah, there's a lot of new backstory for him.
Yeah.
In this one that has got a lot of new material.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we get Baron Karza, who had previously been in Revolution. Baroness is a new one. And these actually, I did like the G.I. Joe profiles because it helped me as someone who hasn't read
that is true.
a good chunk of the past Joe stuff. So it's like, getting to learn the Baroness's backstory in this continuity because... Let's face it, my Joe level of knowledge in general is limited to Renegades and the movies. So, yes, the ones with Channing Tatum. So, yeah, so obviously Baroness is very different in IDW compared to the movie.
Yeah.
We see director Besley from Action Man. I love that the Action Man cast got profiles in this.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yes.
Especially since they're currently sidelined as they were in Revolutionaries 1, but not much beyond that. So it's nice that they're being remembered.
Yeah. And then we have, which of course details her backstory.
Yes.
Biotron. We learned Biotron's real name, which is Unit 550117.
Yep.
Such important information! Yeah. BlackRock. I don't think there's a ton. Although, I did love... what was the... It was like, I do love the gags that Barber has put into a lot of his profiles.
I was tweeting about these the other day, I think. A lot of the Barber profiles have got excellent, just light gags in them. I think I know the line you're probably going to talk about for BlackRock.
Yeah, it's like, BlackRock has many built-in weapon systems, none of which he is used to having or controlling.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And then we come to what I assume in the print issue this is going to be a pull-out kind of centerfold, isn't it?
Again, I can't verify, but I will verify probably on the next episode, which is when I'll have the print issue.
But from the way that the poster is split in half, I think it is it's going to be a pull-out centerfold, I think. So we've got on one side a map, a sort of cross-sectional diagram of the Lemuria, aka the Nemesis, aka the underwater G.I. Joe base, And on the
AKA the
reverse side,
Decepticon ship.
Yes. And on the reverse side, a clean version of the Fico Osseo wraparound cover, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Moving on to new profiles. We get possibly my favorite, Bob, Buster the dog, and Doc. I love that they gave these profiles. Yeah. The only way it could be better is if, like, each got their own individual profile that was as detailed. You know, like detailing the actual history of Buster the dog and all that. Yeah. Which we do get a little bit. Like, Buster was born in a house in New Jersey. His mother was a beagle. Her father was a pug. So that is, that's.
Yeah, another great gag in that one, though. Yeah, Bob has massively powerful teeth and claws. Buster has somewhat less powerful teeth and claws. And then so friggin' Bullet Man profile.
God. Ugh. Okay, so I start when this first was leaked. I was like, okay, this is not spoiling anything as far as we know. So it's like, I felt like pretty confident just going ahead and putting stuff on the wiki. So I'm going through and I'm making pages for like JJ Hackensack and all that because essentially Bullet Man's profile details his entire Hollywood history, because that's part of his character. Is he, after he was a serviceman, he went on to be an actor. So it mentions all these fictional directors like J.J. Hackensack and Solomon Galt and Meyer Wallenstein. And I just figured, okay, this is just Barber making up some names, parodying people in Hollywood, right? Nope. All of these names of these fictional filmmakers come from a freaking Parker Brothers board game that doesn't even have a Wikipedia entry called International Movie Maker. God damn you, Barber! God damn you and your freaking deep cut references.
Yeah, that's going to be sort of the prize winner currently for this Hasbro Universe in terms of plumbing the depths of Hasbro's IP catalog.
Yes, so currently, out of all the things Hasbro has or owns that has been established to exist, all the franchises, we have Transformers, G.I. Joe / Action Force, Action Man, M.A.S.K, Micronauts, Rom the Space Knight, and frigging International Movie Maker.
Oh, and technically Salvation adds another one.
Did I miss?
Salvation makes a brief reference to the planet from the 1987 toy line Air Raiders. Airlandia.
Oh my!
That Bludgeon suggests destroying.
What? I am. I'm so fucking done with this. I love it, and yet I hate it at the same time. Just freaking Air Raiders is in this. I love this, and yet I. Fucking Barber, man.
So, what else do we have in the way of new profiles? Camilla Byers was new.
Yeah, she doesn't really. We don't really get much bio on her.
I was mostly summarizing what she's done in issues.
We get Centurion, who, a spoiler alert for later in the podcast, isn't my new favorite character. He straight up is. I just love him so much.
Bryce Chan. Action character.
Yeah.
And this one's got a nice gag as well. Yeah. He is trained in all NATO weapons, so demonstrates no particular interest in them, and has designed countless classified SIS weapons and gear, of which he is the world's foremost expert.
Yes. We also get Joe Colton.
That is an old one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cover Girl.
And Crystal Ball. I sort of knew CoverGirl's backstory because I read the that Van Lente issue. Mostly because I heard Bullet Man was in that, and I was like, oh, I want to get more backstory on the Adventure Team. So
interestingly, that's not actually brought up in that bio.
Yeah.
That ends of that issue.
Yeah, so...
Although it is brought up in Bullet Man's bio. So.
Yeah, so... But, I mean, you know, Barber writing it versus Sitterson writing it, so, you know. Then we also get Crystal Ball.
Oh, yeah, Crystal Ball.
Yeah, so...
Well, got Doc, then Doc Senior, then Dr. X. All in a row.
Yes. Which, you know, does have slight spoilers if you haven't read Joe.
Yes.
But, yeah. Dr. X, you know, like that. Dave Dubosky, who I did not realize his first appearance was in ROM. Like, I just assumed that because he was a Joe that they just plucked...
Yeah, no, he wasn't one they'd used before.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's... So that was cool. Again, we don't get much backstory to him other than at some point he was replaced by a Wraith, which, you know, was kind of obvious. But, yeah. But it does seem to but that's the thing, like, as has been recently revealed in ROM issues, not all of the Wraiths are replaced. Some were, have been, like, that way since, like, babies. Yeah. You know, so, in that case, it's one of those things where this bio seems to imply that Dubosky was a normal dude, like, for most of his life until recently. But at the same time, it doesn't confirm or deny if he was a Wraith the entire time, so... Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah, finally Duke, with, I guess, a kind of first, like, proper look at his new design.
Yeah.
The Joe book.
Yeah, which, I mean, you know, like... He looks fine. It's Duke. Yeah. He's kind of, you know... he's Duke. I mean, it's kind of... He's kind of the boring leader guy, you know? Is there really much to say interesting about Duke?
Because there's nothing kind of particularly exciting in the bio. It's just, it's what's happened to him previously.
Yeah. Then we get one of the fun things about this, which...
I still need to make this.
Yes, which, like I said, don't know the physical copy, so I don't know if this is printed on, like, card or something like that. But we get a paper craft of a Croyer from the Microdauts, and it is this chibi little, like, block-style paper craft that's just... It's so adorable. Honestly, it really is. It's so cute.
I believe we've actually seen because the artist is Kelly Blake, and I think we've actually seen via her website that the next two issues ones are going to be Optimus and Scarlet.
Nice, awesome. So yeah, this. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of these. Like. 4 Kids, when they had their, like, little, or, like, Fox, like, the Fox box, when they had that, like, program, it was, like, one of those post-Fox Kids kind of ones after Saban got bought by Disney. It was, like, they sold it to, like, the programming block to 4 Kids, and they used to have these little chibi, like, things all the time as, like, their little mascots or whatever. It reminds me of that. Like, I couldn't help but think back to that. Like, shout out, like, in the comments, like, let me know if anyone else remembers that shit, because that is, like, because I don't know. And then, of course, we also get a papercraft of the Thunderhawk from M.A.S.K.
Although, because, in this one, interestingly as well, again, on the artist's website, this is on the artist's website, and there it is shown with the gull-wing doors as a separate piece, so they open. Whereas it's been changed for the final issue. I can't think why. Maybe like they put it together and
it just didn't work.
Decided it didn't work. I don't know. I mean, I suppose it'd be hard to get them to stay closed. Maybe I don't know. But the original.
Yeah, I will report.
Shows golden doors.
I'll report my findings next time once I have the physical copy. Yeah, it's more of a classic Thunderhawk than
it's
than more recent, which is because that's the thing, because Thunderhawk has always pretty obviously been a Camaro, so the fact that, like, the more recent M.A.S.K issues have definitely taken that to a modern Camaro, which looks very different.
Very much sort of Bumblebee Camaro kind of look, isn't it?
Yeah, but hey, at least Thunderhawk is one of the few actually really good things about M.A.S.K. Hey-o!
Actually, I suppose, strictly speaking, you could say that this is the prototype Thunderhawk from Hasbro Universe.
Ah, true. So yeah, overall, the source book is fun, and I like it. I'm interested to see, especially with these paper crafts, I'm interested to see how this gets collected into the trade form.
I would guess that they would sort of put all the profiles together, put all the comic strips together, put the posters together, and then I guess maybe include or not include the paper graft altogether.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be weird if they kind of literally just put the issues together in a book and...
I don't think that'll be it. They'll probably rearrange some stuff, but...
Yeah.
You know... But I certainly hope this thing gets collected into...
Oh, I can't see them not collecting it. Like,
yeah.
Whenever I do not collected things, frankly, unless it's super short and there's nowhere to put it, it'll go. Especially when, it's a source book, having it as one thing, kind of, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're going to do it.
Yeah. Now, we spent, actually, far longer on that than I anticipated, so let's move on to the comics.
Yes.
So... Let's see what's up on the list. Alright, so let's get started with ROM number 11. So this begins the first part of The Long Roads to Ruin, which is the final arc of the book before we enter the First Strike crossover and the fallout of that. We'll get to that in just a little bit. So Rom is still trying to convince Livia and Orpheon of the planet's of Earth's worth. They're still a little resistant and all that, and eventually, while Livia and Rom are traveling the planet in search of various wraiths, they come across a mysterious creature in the ocean that pulls them down into the sea with a big old splash graphic, which is honestly kind of distracting now that I'm looking at it. Well, because it just doesn't look... It looks weirdly lettered to me. We also get... I
know what you mean.
Yeah. We also get a brief scene of Darby, Mason, and Ruan, the dire wraith infectee who wants to save the planet from his fellow wraiths. Anyways, they go on a mission in order to get something that will help reveal the dire wraiths. And that item is a Space Knight's arm with analyzer attached. And Ruan ends up dying in the process of getting it. So now this isn't... Yeah.
I will say, I found that sequence slightly confusing. I didn't realise that Ruan was supposed to have died until it was kind of said aloud in dialogue.
Yeah.
Because you see him kind of grabbing it, and then there's a sort of a blur, and he tosses, Phylar's arm over, and then...
Yeah. Wait, is it, confirmed that it's Phylar, or is that just...
I think it is. I think it's been alluded to that the backup story is going to be the story of how the dire wraiths got that arm.
Okay. Alright. See, that was my thinking, too. I just wasn't sure if that was, a confirmed thing, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure what... I feel pretty confident of that, but I couldn't tell you why. I think, future solicitations have alluded to...
Okay. Alright, so yeah...
story is.
Yeah, I will say, I think the big thing about the Darby Ruan little part of the story is the fact that that they try to do a POV shot, and for the entire sequence, And I'm just not sure if that was really the best way of doing it, because because I was the same way. I was like, wait, Ruan is supposed to have died, and it's like, A, well, he lasted a lot shorter than I expected, and B, it's like, I didn't realize that because it was all framed in this little goggles, thing.
It's an interesting, it's a cool choice, but I'm not sure it ended up kind of being the best choice in terms of visual storytelling.
Yeah. We also get a sequence with Camilla Byers, who, when last we left her, had her arm removed by... was it by Rom or by Orpheon? I think it was...
Oh, gosh.
I feel like it was
Orpheon cleansed the wraith out of her, but I forget who actually took her arm off.
Yeah, but regardless, clearly Orpheon didn't do a good enough job, because because when a couple of Dire Wraith agents disguised as police officers, who apparently had worked with Camilla, go to take her out, she suddenly gets a big old Dire Wraith arm shooting out from her stub, so clearly she still has Wraith biology in her.
But without the actual sort of Wraith.
Without the Wraith personality, yeah. So, let's see, and then of course we get a backup story, which is Tales of the Soulstar Order, Battle Scars Part 1, with beautiful inking by the Sal Buscema, one of the original artists, the original artist in the original ROM Space Knight series for Marvel, and it's a gorgeous throwback. It's just inking, but it really does, you can tell that Sal inked this, and it is beautiful. It has a very classic kind of feel to it, a very old school feel to it. And, of course, it's a story focusing on Phi La, who we had been introduced to in the ROM annual.
I do really love the colours in this story. It's not kind of flat, kind of, retro colouring, but it feels really fitting still to the art. It's almost... it feels sort of painted almost. I like it.
And the fact is, the colorist was Alessandra Alexakis, who is the main colorist on the
was it done by
series.
The main book? The main story color.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So you can really tell how Guy and Sal have worked together to really create a different feel. Or that just shows Alessandra's skills as a colorist.
Yeah. Good range. Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's a story to look.
Yeah, it's a very short story.
Oh, good. What is it? It's 4 pages.
Yeah, it's only 4 pages, and one of them is a splash. So,
true. So I guess if each issue's like that, it's going to end up being a 16-page story, which will probably be included in the. It'll just be slotted into the back of the trade, probably. Oh.
So, overall, I thought this was a solid issue.
Yeah.
We...
It wasn't a wham issue, but then it started a storyline, so it was never going to...
Yeah, we're building up... That's the thing, we sort of... And we got a taste of this in Interlude. We have sort of 3 main stories kind of going on. We have Rom, Livia, and Orpheon. We have Darby, and then we have Camilla. And I assume this will all come back kind of to a head at the end, near the end of the story. Because it does say Long Roads to Ruin. So this is clearly a lot of setup and a lot of build-up. But I did like seeing Darby... I do like the idea, of Darby kind of trying to take the fight to the Wraiths and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what plays out with Camilla.
I was thinking just now she's almost sort of similar to to Doc over in G.I. Joe now. Sort of
yes. Yeah, a lot of similarities.
Start a support group, perhaps.
Yeah. So, I do hope, though, that, like, just for her sake, that she gets, like, is able to, like, kind of contract that arm.
Oh, yeah, rather than heave around, gigantic fist everywhere.
Yeah.
I'd hope she'll gain control over it.
I mean, that just seems like it would be terrible for your balance, you know?
Yeah.
But one of the things that indicates is if this is more than just her arm, and she actually still has the Dire Wraith throughout the whole part, that makes me wonder, will she be able to, will she be sort of the Dire Wraith ally to Rom, as in, like, where we'll get to see her kind of, like, learning more Dire Wraith abilities, like shape-shifting, or even some of the magic?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
And also, just while we're talking about different plot lines going on, I forget, like, the whole thing with the Joes and the thing that sounded like they were talking about Micronauts, is that going to get brought back up again? What was that? I'm sure I talked about this last time we were talking about Rom.
Yeah.
Like, have they been mentioned at all in future solicits? I don't remember.
No, I think Beachhead and Grunt are just, like, kind of vanished after that first, I mean...
Interesting.
Well, it's hard to know, if Scarlet's gonna be all, like, reprimand them for going off, half-cocked. But, yeah, we'll see. And, of course, like, the main thing about it is... Of course, the main story is Rom and the Space Knights.
Yeah.
And we get to see more of Rom sort of, reflecting on how he's changed compared to his fellow Space Knights and how much Olivia has changed. And we get to see, more kind of conflict. Like, Olivia is definitely a go-in, guns blazing kind of girl, whereas Rom is, let's try to gather some intel before we strike. And I like that. It's not the fact that he's disillusioned with his mission, because he still very much is wanting to fight the Wraiths, but he just goes about it in a different method than the rest of the order seems to.
Yeah.
And I like...
I'm really enjoying, kind of IDW Rom, the characterization. Like, he is a very nice character.
Yeah.
Because, like, he has that sort of your good old-fashioned, like, sci-fi sort of, like, cyborg who is sad about being a cyborg thing, but he kind of, like, he doesn't let it get him down, and he still believes in fighting for what's right and doing good by the humans, and Rom's lovely.
So overall it was a solid issue.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this story. And because that's the thing, Scylla and the other Greek
Scylla and Charybdis.
That's it.
Yeah. That's the thing, I feel like if there's one sort of problem that Rom has, it's the fact that we're getting a lot of build-up. We have we had the present, we have the absence, we have the presence, and last issue we got Axiom and Caleb sort of starting.
Yeah, that thread hasn't been picked up on in this issue.
Yeah, and Dubosky and all that. And now we have the Scylla and Charybdis thing. So we have a lot of things set up, but, we're not really getting to them all. But again, like I said, this is the beginning of the new story arc. It's a lot of setup. And I want to see how it all pays off.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how final almost the end of this arc will be, because like Wrath of Kaza is very obviously, by the end of that miniseries, it's going to have tied up all of the kind of Micronaut story that has been established so far, where it's harder to see what kind of the end point of the story is. And I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's definitely set up, because this is the final story arc of the individual Rom title, but we definitely have plenty of storylines set up for future series. So, yeah. Overall, solid issue.
Yeah.
Next up,
Lost Light number 6. So yeah, that is the end of a story arc, the end of Lost Light's first story arc. And so yeah, we had our heroes, after the Rom versus Rung, not Rom, oh my goodness, the Rung versus Rodimus cliffhanger. Rodimus punches him, but then, yeah.
Rodimus punches Rung in the face!
But then, yeah. So Rung mass shifts to literally the size of a moon and starts punching the moon to try and, stop the Functionists kidnapping everyone and such. And meanwhile, our heroes, set out to make their escape back to their own universe. But, it's not as simple because it can't be simple. They get shot down and have to make their way to a teleporter to get back. And then, they split up in good old fashion. Megatron, asked to stay behind to talk to Terminus, and they're forced to split up. Whilst the main group goes ahead, Megatron stays behind. And, well, it is left ambiguous in the issue, but I believe, James Roberts has confirmed on Twitter now that Terminus lies to Megatron about which teleporter the others have gone to, and he is left behind in the Functionist universe. And, of course, then, meanwhile, on the Necro world, the whole, Lug was a hallucination thing has played out, but... And I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting just everyone to be sad about it. But, no, we have a bit of a sort of, just this once everybody lives moment. And, Lug is saved from her spark flower. Which, I wasn't expecting that to happen. Were you, Dan?
Well, that's the thing. I honestly was kind of confused, and I was actually just, flipping back through the issue to try to figure it out. Is Lug alive? Or is she just a new backpack?
I think the implication is that kind of the backpack is kind of her little sort of condensed protoform state. Have you read the holiday special from the other year? The Transformers holiday special?
I can't remember if I did read the holiday special, actually. I feel like I got it, but I can't remember if I actually read it.
See, because that established that, protoforms, when they're newborn, they form a little sort of compact, simple, baby-esque form.
Oh, okay. So I didn't remember that at all. So
the backpack is kind of protoform Lug, I think, is the idea, which will then sort of grow.
That's a phone, by the way, to the people listening. That's what you're hearing in the background.
So then little protoform Lug will grow over time, no doubt, into full-sized Lug.
Yeah.
And then we end with Megatron is in the Functionist universe, and he is going to whip up.
He's going to be good Megatron now.
And then we end with he gets a phone call from Orion Pax.
Yay, they're going to be buddies in this universe.
So there has been a lot of debate about the end of this issue.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So, what did you think of it, Callum?
I am in the I am in the school of opinion that I don't like Megatron getting this happy ending, getting to sort of start over and have a fresh start, and also hook up with his boyfriend basically and have a nice happily ever after. But on the face of it, I do know that he is almost certainly going to come back for the finale and probably end up in the main universe by the end of it. I don't think this is Megatron's permanent ending. It is. And if I didn't know almost for a fact that he is going to come back, I would be a bit grumpy about this ending. But as it is, I'm fine, but I guess kind of.
Yeah, I really can't argue with a lot of the people who are very much against Megatron getting a redemption arc. I have mixed feelings about it myself because on the one hand, it's freaking Megatron, and Megatron since the Furman days was written to be dictator, murderer, monster Megatron. With the recent, it's only with more recent series that we began to really, yes, there was Megatron Origin that sort of told his origin, but it was really with this series that we started to get sort of the redemption arc of Megatron. And, it's like, on the one hand, I'm kind of, I definitely have felt Megatron overload, so I'm kind of glad to see him sort of, get pushed off. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if, this is really... I don't know how I feel about it. I have a lot of complicated feelings about it, quite frankly. On the one hand, I'm glad to see Megatron sort of getting this, second chance, but at the same time, it's like, also, I don't know if that really works for the character when you consider the whole of, the fact is he is kind of Robo-Space Stalin, It's like, I personally use Stalin rather than... Because I think that's a better...
No.
Yeah.
Megatron was a communist dictator, gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, but, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly.
Yeah. I think it kind of ultimately comes down to... I don't think anyone would argue against just the base concept of Megatron having some kind of redemption arc. But he hasn't really ended up... If it were to be left like this,
yeah, I guess it's sort of
he hasn't really made amends or sort of
right.
Even really.
It's sort of it's not like it's like if Hal Jordan, when after he murdered the Green Lantern Corps and all that, didn't die reigniting the sun, but instead he just went off to a parallel universe where he can just be nice Hal Jordan now. It's like...
Yeah, it kind of...
There's no real... there's no real penance that Megatron...
No, yeah. There's not really any justice for, the people Megatron killed.
Yeah.
The millions of people that he directly or indirectly killed. And, yeah, I mean, ultimately, Megatron's character journey so far has been, I feel bad about this. I shouldn't kill people anymore. Actually, no, I just shouldn't kill. Killing is okay so long as it's bad people. I am firmly of the opinion that, I'm pretty sure he will come back.
He has to.
Yeah, and I'm of the opinion that he probably needs to die.
Yeah,
my two thoughts are either die in a big way. Actually, I was saying a while ago. Actually, when I was pitching a sort of table clear story for the current Transformers line, I suggested Megatron and Optimus dying, kind of fighting side by side to kind of buy time for the other heroes. So either something like that, and this, I think I'm stealing it. I think I realised that I was subconsciously stealing it from what I read was one of Russell T Davies's original plans for how David Tennant, Doctor Who, was going to die, which was dying, saving just a single family, a kind of single inconsequential family of people on a spaceship from dying. And I thought Megatron sacrificing his life to save a family of organic aliens would be sort of some kind of meaningful ending for his character journey, I thought.
Yeah.
But then there already has been kind of touches of that in Dying of the Light when he was the one making the big speech about how they should stay behind and defend the people in the tubes that turned out to be Transformers, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but Yeah.
I won't be satisfied if this is Megatron's ending, but I know it won't be. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's see how this pans out then.
See, what gets me though is I feel like in the cyclical nature of comics, eventually, there's going to and I hate to say it because IDW is doing some amazing stuff right now, but eventually I feel like we have to reach the point where we do a sort of a soft reboot. In the same way that Phase 2. I feel like eventually we are going to reach our Phase 3, and when that happens, what's gonna, are they eventually going to try to make Megatron a villain again? And if that's the case, I feel like it'll make More Than Meets the Eye's whole thing with Megatron kind of worthless if that ever happens. I was just thinking about this the other day, and I was like, if they ever try to make Megatron a villain again, it's kind of going to throw out all this.
Yeah, it would be a struggle, I think. Right now, if you were going to do a table clear and do a sort of a back to basics Transformers book, I think kind of Starscream is the obvious choice to position as a villain.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, and we had Galvatron, who was very much our sort of traditional Megatron kind of. I will say one thing I didn't notice, I had to, it was actually maybe I'm just dumb for not noticing it, but was when Rodimus had his whole when Minimus says, "We can't let him get away," Rodimus is like, "We can't let him what? Get away." I said we can't let him get away. And then he immediately goes, "Let's get out of here." It's I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I get it. It took me a second. I was like, oh, I get it. Get away. Get away.
I had to have it pointed out to me. Yeah, that went right over my head too.
Yeah, so. Yeah. But
I do want to say while we're talking about Lost Light, because I was thinking last week, I've been forgetting to talk much about the art, and I do think by the end of this arc, at the end of this arc now, I think Jack Lawrence has he's found his groove, I think.
Yes, I'll agree with you there. I definitely have not, a lot of people really have been ragging on his art, and I don't think it's, I think it's fine, personally.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people have just been grumpy because basically it's not Alex Mill drawing it. And I will say that at the start of the first few issues, it felt, I don't know, it was just, he was new to drawing these character models, and you could tell he wasn't kind of used to drawing these,
But definitely, but definitely by this issue, he's found his groove, and I can tell he's a good fit for this book. So
yeah. I mean, in terms of style, he's probably closest to sort of kind of Nick Roach out of kind of people who have worked on this book before.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And he does very nice sort of wild takes.
So let's see. Is there anything else we need to talk about with Lost Light?
No, I think
Yeah, I mean the big thing was Megatron's story arc, so so that kind of gets resolved. The Functionist universe is now. Oh yeah, Functionist Rung dies.
Yes, that's that. So, it's not something mentioned.
Yeah, but and of course now we have Rodimus really focusing on going back to Getaway, and now of course we have the dynamic of Megatron is gone. Yeah. So what's going to happen with Getaway and the Hot Rod crew?
Yeah, that's good. That's going to be an interesting question. Yeah, but then we're not actually getting back to the Lost Light until issue 10, I believe.
Yeah, so we still have the journey back to the ship, but that's an interesting dynamic, because now that Megatron has been removed, I wonder what it's going to be like for Getaway once, oh hey, yeah, all those people I stranded are suddenly back, and they're back without the megalomaniacal maniac murderer named Megatron. Boom! Killing it with the alliteration. So, yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Next up, we have Optimus Prime number 8. Now, this was an issue that I was really looking forward to since it was announced. Because, of course, we're bringing back Casey Collar on art. And Casey's it is so good to see Casey's art again. He friggin' nailed this issue. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, the main crux of this issue is Jazz, who is being interviewed by Hector Ramirez, who has officially been brought into the IDW verse. For those of you who do not know Hector Ramirez, he was a newscaster stock character that showed up in the Sunbow Transformer series, who also showed up in the Sunbow G.I. Joe series, Sunbow Gem and the Humanoid series, and Sunbow Gem and the Holograms series, and the Inhumanoid series. I didn't catch that until... Oh my god.
I mean, you say that, I would absolutely read Gem and the Inhumanoids from IDW Publishing.
Yeah.
If you're listening, guys.
Yes. Chris?
You can send us the check now.
Yes. We'll split it. But yeah, so Hector Ramirez is now in the... which, one of the preliminary names for this podcast was the Ramirez Report, but Yeah, but I said, but that won't really work. Hector Ramirez isn't in the IDW universe. Whatever, Action and Adventure is a way better name. So the main crux of this issue is Jazz and him basically agreeing to an interview to try to get the real story of a Cybertronian out there. And it's presented in... essentially we get these great splash pages that are accompanied by some an interview style kind of art, or text. It's basically, tell us where you came from. Cybertron? I thought everybody knew that. And then, so it's all detailed. Meanwhile, while that's going on, we see, we still have the... Prime acolytes who have followed Optimus to Earth. The big one being Slide, whose brother Euler was killed, and Pyra Magna is sort of convincing Slide that maybe we shouldn't be listening to Optimus. Maybe we should be listening to someone else. And meanwhile, Optimus is gets to talk with the president, and eventually Optimus calls her to a meeting where they can meet up and kind of hash some things out, which takes us into the Transformers Annual that was released earlier this year. We also check in briefly with Aileron and Jetfire, as well as continuing our sort of flashback story of Jetfire working for the Cybertron security along with Orion Pax back before the war, and him sort of having to deal with being a Decepticon who then joined the cops, and all the backlash from his fellow Decepticons that's getting. And at the end of the issue, Jazz basically realizes that this interview is nothing more than sort of an attack on him, and so he ends up leaving the interview in the middle, and basically is just at the end we just get we just see Jazz just driving in vehicle mode in the rain, and it's just he's just so dejected, and it's a great story overall. I thought Optimus Prime number 8 was great.
Oh, it's a really good issue. I saw one or two people complaining, oh, nothing happened in it, but oh my goodness, someone missed the point of this character-driven issue.
Yes. It's it's not, no one punched each other or blew something up? that doesn't mean nothing happens in it. Like, yeah. So, yeah. Like, there's a lot to this issue. Of course, the main crux is the Jazz interview, and I was actually like really hoping that this would not like turn out the way it did. Like I was like, oh yes, Jazz, get your story out there, and then of course, it starts to, and of course it gave us that great what's the page where we see Jazz talking about his interest in Earth culture, and we see like his vehicle mode surrounded by all those American jazz musicians. It's that's such a good piece of art. Like that would make a great like phone background or something, or like a poster. Like I would love to hang this art on my wall. It's so great. Yeah.
Actually, just an odd thought striking me. Just that Casey Collar has drawn humans a lot in Transformers books. This is probably the most humans Casey Collar's ever ended up drawing in a Transformers book, I would say.
Yeah.
And actually, and then John Paul Beauvais on art, on colours, which, I realised that I am normally like perfectly fine with John Paul Beauvais colours, apart from when he tries to gradient colour humans, like faces, and it always looks weird. Like, was the M.A.S.K. He did the M.A.S.K. annual, and looking back at it now, I realise, it's the same problem. When he tries to do gradient colouring on humans' faces, it always just looks kind of odd and like highlighted in the wrong places. Like when he like two-tone colouring, it's fine. Like, I'm looking at the first page of the issue here, and the humans are just two-tone coloured, with like light and shadow and highlights, and that's fine. But then, like this shot of the president on another page, it just ends up looking weird.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
Like the robots look great. It's fine. No issues there with the robots. Looks nice. But the humans. And I suppose that's an issue. Some Transformers like line art has as well, I guess, is that people have sort of like they've cut their teeth drawing Transformers and sometimes struggle with humans. So I guess like same to be said of can be true of colorists, I guess, on Transformers.
Yeah.
But overall, like it's a really really lovely looking issue. Like
definitely.
Yeah, Casey doesn't disappoint. Like the one thing I will say with Casey art, and I saw someone pointing it out the other day, is that Casey does like perfect like kind of physical forms of robots. Like you could swear like he was referencing like CG, like posed CG models, but he doesn't do those big facial expressions like say Jack Lawrence or kind of Nick Roach or Milne does.
Yeah, a lot of his robot modes.
It's more kind of strained, which it is.
Yeah.
It is nice to have variety, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
it's all kind of open mouth and very solid.
So, just makes up for it though with just like perfect like physical. I always find it so impressive with Casey Collar art, just how like the geometry of everything is just spot on. Like I said, you could swear he was just like referencing a posed CGI model of the character. There's never like a skew. There's never any kind of skewy perspective or anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that Barber apparently convinced him to come back and do a full issue on it being a jazz issue.
Yeah. I mean that's what Barber says. Yeah. But overall, like, what did you think of the story that we got in this issue?
Oh no, it's a great issue. I really love the interview, kind of literally doing the interview in a kind of prose interview format. That wasn't something I'd been expecting, but it works so well with those big splash pages that all of them are gorgeous. It's so nice.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice character-driven issue. Yeah.
Yeah. And I personally, though, like, I really liked the fact that, like, some people aren't really fans of it, but I'm enjoying the Jetfire backup, or the Jetfire flashback story myself. And I like that we sort of see what the Decepticons are sort of, sort of what Jetfire being a cop is, sort of how that's affected him and his circle of friends. And the Decepticons.
I forget if I've mentioned it before in this podcast, but I really love that, in this book, Barber is kind of explicitly acknowledging that Orion Pax's backstory of being a cop for an oppressive government is increasingly awkward in the world we live in today. And this book has, it is facing up to that and, exploring the shades of grey. And because at this point, when where these flashbacks are, you could quite happily argue that the Decepticons were basically in the right. Zeta Prime was a terrible person. The government was horrible.
Yeah.
And I do like that it, because it has never been a thing with these IDW post-war things that, well, perhaps not in Megatron Origin, but certainly since Chaos Theory, all the sort of pre-war stuff has been very sort of, it hasn't been goodies versus baddies, black and white. But I do like that this series has been kind of exploring in particular the whole sort of thing with Orion Pax being a cop.
Yeah.
In this oppressive regime. I do like that it's
it's very interesting. And of course we do get super topical when Hector brings up it's such a brief thing in in All Hail Optimus. It's such a tiny thing, but it comes back in such a big way when we see Jazz saving that black kid from getting shot by a police officer, which very relevant today. You know, it's and that's the thing. And the fact is, that was just a brief thing on All Hail Optimus, but it's come back in a big way with Hector. Kind of focusing on that to sort of a smear interview with Jazz. So, yeah. So, and one thing that I wanted to ask you about was G.I. Joe. To me, them coming in seemed kind of random. It
is a bit,
were they called in? Did the president send them in? What was the exact reason that G.I. Joe showed up? It seemed kind of they were just
unclear.
Yeah.
Because looking back, I don't think it's implied that sort of they were called by the TV people or anything.
Yeah.
But oh, actually no, because they sort of it's a bit random, but they're regular characters in the book, and but it does. You do have to wonder why are they suddenly after Jazz, who has just been happily a part of Optimus Prime's forces on Earth up to this point.
Yeah, it is weird. But hey, they called in Salvo.
Yeah, I was going to say Salvo's there. So
who's quickly becoming new fan favorite for Joe. At least. Yeah. At least amongst Joe fans who are reading this comic. But overall, Optimus Prime number 8, solid issue. I would recommend it.
Oh yeah, no. A very nice kind of character piece.
All right. Next up.
So next up, Transformers Salvation, which is the third part of the Dinobot trilogy.
Yes. So before we get started here, real quick, I literally kept forgetting that this comic was a thing. I remember.
I did the same thing. Yeah.
I remember when me and Callum a day or two ago, when we were messaging about what order in which we were going to go, I was like, wait, we forgot Transformers Salvation on the list, so we had to completely refigure everything, and because I completely forgot this thing was a thing, and even when I went to my comic book store, I completely forgot to pick up my copy of Salvation, because, quite frankly, I did not read the Dinobot, the other two Dinobot issues, so it's like, so I kept forgetting that this was a thing, and ultimately, I did read it through Comixology, but ultimately the only reason I did that was I put a poll out on Twitter and was like, should I read this even though should I read this just for the podcast? And everyone said yes, so I was like, okay. So, yeah, you're going to get a very different experience from the two of us, so, Callum.
I suppose, yeah. So, what happened in Salvation? So we're picking up on plot threads from both of the previous installments, Punishment and Redemption. And so we've got sort of two-hand thing of, Starscream is getting grumpy that the Dinobots have been hanging around the new hotspot of Sparks, which was introduced in Redemption, and so decides to sick Sandstorm, who was a major player in Punishment, to go kill them. Meanwhile, Bludgeon has been getting involved in an arcane science project, because that's what Bludgeon does. And he has built a replica of, based on the legends, of Mortilus's Void Spear, and has used it to raise Trypticon from beneath Praetorus Wharf, I think the name of the place was. And his plan is to have Trypticon gobble up, basically, all of these new sparks of the hotspot, and mutate them into super warriors using Trypticon's weird mutant energon blood, and then conquer the universe. But Bludgeon is a simple man with simple desires. And it is down then to the Dinobots to stop him. And so and then at the very start of the issue, though, Sandstorm catches up with the Dinobots, and Slag goes out. Actually, I say Slag. Does he go by Slag in the issue or by Slug?
Slug.
I've read it more recently.
Slug.
Yes, he is going by Slug, because he changed it during Dark Cybertron, didn't he? But I forgot whether he was sticking to it.
Yeah, it's Slug.
But and he goes out with a literal bang. He does. Sandstorm pierces his spark chamber, and his fire breathing kind of mechanics, and so then he deliberately detonates himself to wreck Bludgeon's laboratory. And then the remaining Dinobots are forced to eventually team up with Sandstorm to try and stop Bludgeon from achieving his ridiculous plan of raising an army of super warriors and conquering the galaxy in Trypticon spaceship mode. And achieve that they do, but not in the way you might expect. And it's great that they, again, it's John Barber sort of knowing his stuff. It goes back to Trypticon's original bio. So in Trypticon's original bio, his kind of Bob Budiansky full-length Transformers Universe G1 profile, his whole thing is that Trypticon just hates everything, hates everyone, hates the war, and he's just done with it. Trypticon is 100% done with everything. And this issue uses that as an actual plot point for, I think, the first time ever in actual Transformers fiction, because when freed from Bludgeon's control, Trypticon says, "No, this isn't happening, Bludgeon." And he uses his space bridge to teleport Trypticon 100 meters outside of his head to get blasted with his laser beam. And then he flies down into the ground and allows the sparks that have been put inside him to use his body to as their kind of protoform, as their kind of protoform goo, and give birth to a new generation untainted by war.
Yeah. So, Yeah. Alright, so, like I said, I did not read this issue, so let's let Callum give you his thoughts first, and then I'll join in.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this issue. It properly brought back to get everything together from the past two installments, whilst keeping the same whole theme of the Dinobots kind of trying to make amends, basically, for being crappy people during the war, and this idea of focusing on sort of the Transformers sort of stuck in a cycle of war, but can they be better? Can they have a new generation that isn't touched by war? We get resolution on everything from the previous two stories, and it's a really nice story, kind of in and of itself. I like the whole sort of non-linear, because I did not describe this in recounting the story for obvious reasons, but it unfolds kind of non-linearly in the issue itself. We sort of flicker back and forwards following several of the different characters from kind of where they join the kind of series of events through to the climactic battle with Trypticon, and it works quite well, I thought. And I very much recommend this issue, but I do have to say you probably should read the previous two first, as I'm guessing Dan can probably attest.
Yes, I was slightly confused by what was going on. I like that's the thing. It's like opening shot. It's like, oh, Trypticon, cool. It's like open with a bang. So obviously I knew I knew some things going in. I knew Bludgeon was a part of it, and I knew that that the Dinobots had recently gotten Strafe as a new member.
Yes.
So I was not confused as to where Grimlock was. I was not that level of lost. I will say it's interesting to see Sandstorm as an assassin when they said he was killing. He was going around hunting people who had committed war crimes. I think was I'm afraid you have had a twist from Redemption spoiled for you in that Redemption is a bit of a murder mystery. And Sandstorm turns out to be the culprit. Okay. See, and that is very much not the Sandstorm I know. My knowledge of Sandstorm comes from the original cartoon, where he was buddies with Octane. So,
I've not watched that episode, but apart from the one clip with Ultra Magnus, that I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So beautiful. Right, detonate the bomb.
But overall, I thought this was it was a solid read. I admit I'm not a huge fan of Livio Ramondelli's art, but it actually wasn't that bad here. It's usually if he has time to really flesh out what he's drawing and really put his full energy into it, it's a lot better than when, say, they have him be the fill-in artist on an issue or in a story arc, and it's you can very much feel the rush job.
This is absolutely Livio Ramondelli with time to work, and it absolutely shows.
Yeah, compared to Combiner Wars. Is the thing I always think about. But overall, I did we got to see a little bit more of Trypticon's backstory, and I wasn't sure how much of that had been I'm not sure how much of that had actually been explored before this issue. I know he appeared in Spotlight. Was it Spotlight Metroplex that Trypticon appeared?
He cameos very briefly in Spotlight Blaster.
Oh, okay, Blaster. Maybe that was what I was thinking.
But a lot of backstory in this issue. Well,
there's some issues where he fights Metroplex, though, isn't there?
So the stuff with him fighting
Metroplex
is Monstrosity.
Oh yes, okay, okay. I knew that. That explains why I didn't remember it. I didn't actually read Monstrosity. I just read the wiki articles.
that established that he fought Metroplex in kind of prehistory, and then he also then fought him later again at the start of the war.
Yeah, so I like the whole, but we got to see actual narration from Trypticon.
That was really
that because Trypticon's always presented as just big monster. Yeah, he's Godzilla. You know, he's big monster, and we might, and it's like, we might think he's cool, but ultimately it's about, he's not much of a character. And this actually, like, giving some character to Trypticon, I thought was really cool. And him sort of, at the end, curling up into, and sort of, it's like being the, fostering this whole, new generation of Cybertronians. I actually really dig that. So I actually, really liked this issue and would recommend it. Though I will say, don't be like me and read it blind. Probably check out Redemption and Punishment in order to know what's actually going on.
And actually, I'll point out as well, because you just made me think then, Trypticon, when he's curled up there at the end underground, that is how he was found in Monstrosity, curled up like that underground. So again, it's all very sort of, kind of starts and ends.
Yeah.
Actually, formed by Livio as well, of course.
Yeah. So really, if you put the Dinobot trilogy with the Autocracy trilogy, it forms the Livio Remondelli series.
Yeah. Actually, and just thinking about Trypticon's internal narration as well, I did like that. Yeah, even in his internal narration, Trypticon kind of refused to clarify whether Mortalus and the Guiding Hand were real or not.
Yeah.
Like Trypticon himself says, or so the legends say.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate that the IDW universe is committed to, keeping the religion be actual religion where no one actually knows whether they are real or not, and not just the normal Transformers things of, like, it's technically religion, but everyone knows for a fact that God exists and that they're standing on him. And it okay, right, fine.
Yeah. And the fact that, like, we really didn't get him, like, the realization that this is his internal narration until the end. That was like,
no, yeah.
Oh man, like, that was a really cool thing for me. So, yeah. So overall, solid issue. Probably would have been better, and I'm definitely going to pick up the trade now, though.
Yeah, I assume. Yeah, there will be a Dinobot trilogy trade, no doubt, collecting the three, because they haven't been collected really before.
Yes, I definitely
shots.
Yeah, definitely want to pick this up and all that. So, although I was shocked to see Slug get taken down so soon. It's like, oh, okay.
That as well actually would perhaps read better having read Redemption, because Redemption is very much Slug's story. He is the kind of focus character of Redemption, and Redemption is about Slug going on a character journey.
Yeah.
So kind of his death at the start of that is kind of he dies at the start, but he completed his character journey in the last one almost. So again, that's the thing where having read the other ones does help this story.
All right. Okay. Cool. So, I'll definitely be checking out the trade then for this issue.
I do wonder what they'll kind of name that as. I mean, maybe just Dinobots trilogy, but you wonder if they'll come up with something sort of like jazzier for marketing purposes.
Transformers Punish Sal Redemption. No, Punish Redem Salvation.
Catchy, yeah.
Yes. Hire me to market your books, IDW. All right. Next up, let's talk about the big thing. This is the book we've been waiting for all week, honestly.
Yep.
So, Revolutionaries number 5, Cobra Commander versus Hearts of Steel. So, yes, the issue opens with the Axelon from Beast Wars. right off the bat. Like, just mind blown. And we see a bunch of crewmen with the talisman behind them, who all happen to look exactly like Autobots that we know. For, like, their commander, Domitius Major, looks almost exactly like Optimus Prime. And, of course, he's joined by an Ironhide-looking dude, a Bumblebee-looking dude, a Ratchet-looking dude, and a Prowl-looking dude. These guys, and, of course, it's later revealed that these guys are servants of Onyx Prime, and that they have been searching for Energon, and their trail has brought them to Earth, where they are shot down by Shockwave. And basically, it's revealed that the Hearts of Steel miniseries has been retconned into happening in the main IDW verse. And we see flashbacks to that story, as well as seeing what's happening in the modern day, which is the Revolutionaries going after Tomax Paoli, who has decided to embrace the title of Cobra Commander. So basically, the entire issue flips, like, each page goes back and forth between the story of the Eucharians / Hearts of Steel characters and the Revolutionaries in the present. And we get to see the one bot, Centurion, who was Hearts of Steel Bumblebee. We essentially get to see how Shockwave sort of manipulated these Eucharians into being the airsats, or like sort of replicas of the Autobots and Decepticons, and sort of putting them together into a military simulation. But as the years went on, they realized that they weren't who they thought they were. And eventually Centurion was left as the last of the one, when he met Sergeant Savage and Lieutenant and Garrison Krieger, of course, from Sergeant Savage and his Screaming Eagles. So we get to sort of see the backstory and see, Centurion's story, which I don't really want to go into all the details because I really, really want people to like check this out for themselves. But by the end of the story, Garrison Blackrock, who of course was also a creation of Onyx Prime, is able to sort of calm Centurion down, and explain to him that he is not the only Transformer, that their existence is not cursed, and they offer to help him. Meanwhile, Mayday tries to get some information out of Tomax, who is decked out in the full Cobra Commander gear. And Tomax gladly tells her that, and of course, the issue ends with the reveal that that Dr. X and Storm Shadow are in the nation of Brosnia with Project Iceman, a.k.a. the Atomic Man, Mike Power. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this issue of Revolutionaries. Callum, what did you think?
Oh no, it's a great issue. Like it appears to have been kind of divisive from what I've seen in this. That some people don't like the Hearts of Steel retcon. I really love it. Like it's a really clever kind of way of taking something that was basically just gathering dust on a metaphorical shelf and brushing it off and making it part of something that's actually kind of ongoing and relevant. Because the Hearts of Steel miniseries isn't an amazing thing, but it's neat, and the greedy art is nice, and I think everyone kind of likes Hearts of Steel a little bit.
Yeah, and whether you like the story or you just like the idea or you just like the designs, it's kind of, I don't think I've met anyone who detests Hearts of Steel, you know?
Everyone's at least a little bit fond of it, I think. And personally, I think it's very nice to take it and pick it up and make it relevant again. But yeah, some people I think that aren't keen on the retcon. So yeah, it is. Your mileage may vary, but yeah, I love this issue. Between the gorgeous Guido Guidi art for the flashbacks, because yeah, he is doing his kind of self drawn and coloured kind of one-man band retro Marvel-ish artwork like he did in the old 2012 annuals. And has he done it since then? I forget.
I'm not sure actually. I don't feel like it.
I know he did a few issues of Regeneration 1, didn't he? But I don't think he coloured those himself like these.
Yeah, not in this style, no.
And we are talking about art as well. The present day stuff, like Fico Ossio, is like lovely as per usual as well.
And there's such a great contrast between Guido's art and Fico's art, like in the coloring and in just the line work, and it really helps to make the two stories stand out like really well. I think it's a really good, really good having the very distinct art styles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you're doing a story like this where you've got two kind of threads running parallel, having having contrast in the art is very nice to have.
Yeah.
I will say like Fico Ossio has been like a great find. I do hope that kind of IDW bring it back on for some more like Transformers or even just Hasbro Universe stuff after Revolutionaries.
Oh, most certainly.
Like I think it helps that kind of he isn't a sort of like Transformers grown artist, in that he does lovely humans as well as lovely robots. Like actually, like I was saying, earlier on the show, some Transformers artists struggle with humans, but Ossio does both very nicely.
Yeah, and definitely it's like his art is definitely divisive. Like back when Revolution happened, and I feel like he's definitely, as he's gone on, he's improved a lot with his Transformers. With his Transformers,
have improved. Yeah,
it's like so. Like it wasn't great when he started, but it's like he's definitely improved a lot, and I think he's a great artist. And Sebastian Chang's coloring really complements it well.
Yeah, I was gonna say complements very nicely.
Yes. I remember back when this first started, you had your theory that they were going to come from like another dimension. What did you think of the Yukarian backstory?
Oh, that is really clever, isn't it? Like, because of course in the original story, as kind of written, the intent is clearly that they got to Earth and they scanned these sort of dinosaur-y kind of prehistoric beast modes. But it's a really clever way to kind of flip that around and say, actually, no, those were beast modes they had already because they were from Eucharist. That's a really clever way of doing it. And again, it is clearly a divisive thing, making it such that those characters in Hearts of Steel were actually some other people, but brainwashed. And I can absolutely understand why some people aren't keen on that, but I do just I love the kind of the cleverness of the retcon, and also I enjoy Shockwave being responsible for it, because Shockwave's responsible for everything in this universe.
Yeah, and I liked how not only did they make the Axelon the Yukarian's ship, which is currently feeding the theory that Domitius Major is going to become Optimus Primal in the Power of the Prime.
I'm not sure whether I believe that.
Well, he's kind of depicted as being dead, but it's hard to know if he's going to stay dead. But on that same note as the Axelon, it's now revealed that Shockwave's ship, when he was checking on his Regenesis stuff, was the friggin' Darksider, Dark Side, not Darksider. I think that is just brilliant myself. I loved it.
And speaking just again to the sort of the cleverness of it, because if you've not read the original Hearts of Steel miniseries, you might not know that it has really, really weird colouring.
It really does.
Some characters get totally arbitrary new colour schemes for no clear reason.
Yeah.
And one of those is that in the opening scenes depicting them fighting in the Ice Age, Ironhide is green for no real reason. Well, and also, Skywolf is red.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because you flip the page and then Prowl and Ratchet and Gears and people are all coloured like Prowl and Ratchet and Gears. But no, Ironhide is green for some reason. And in this issue, you'll notice that fake Ironhide is the only one of the Eukaryotes you see that doesn't. Well, I guess, did Shockwave just repaint them? I guess he must have.
Yeah, most of them he did. He definitely repainted Domitius, and he definitely repainted Centurion.
All of them are. Prowl is and Ratchet, and obviously Centurion and
the only one he didn't repaint was Ironhide.
And Ironhide, and that's because Ironhide was green in the original miniseries for no reason.
Yeah.
But I like to imagine that Shockwave had used up all his red paint by the time he got to Ironhide. It's just people.
Yes. This also gives the quote-unquote origin of the talisman. It at some point was in the possession of Onyx Prime, because it's pretty clearly established that Onyx sent the Axelon in search of... And it's not stated in this issue, I don't think, but in the source book it's clarified that they were specifically looking for the Enigma of Combination, which was on Earth at the time. Which, of course, fits because it was established that Onyx and Nexus Prime were buddies.
Yeah. When Revolutionaries started, I wasn't expecting it to sort of tie into the whole, sort of Onyx Prime, Nexus Prime threads from over in kind of XRID and Optimus Prime as much as it did.
Yeah.
So, but this has been kind of a neat surprise that it's sort of tying into the greater sort of Barber-verse.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's actually contributing towards that. And it makes sense because we do have Blackrock in this book.
Yeah.
And now he and Centurion have a very, sort of kinship. They're both Onyx Prime's boys. So.
Well, that's another thing that makes this, the retcon of making them, Eukaryons and like Onyx Prime servants. That's another thing that makes it so clever. That gives you this thing with Blackrock, the common link with Onyx, and
sticking with the flashbacks real quick. First off, I want to say I really like Centurion, which I realized I've pronounced his name like 3 different ways. I've either pronounced it Centurion, or when it first started, I kept pronouncing it Centurion, which I think is just because it's a transformer. It's like it's that on kind of syllable. It's just it's hard to avoid.
You say Victorion, not Victorian.
Yeah, exactly. Victorion, Centurion. So, but I really liked how Centurion, sort of teams up with Sergeant Savage, and he gets a World War II based alternate mode. I actually, it's like as much as I would have loved to have had him be a train like the entire time. No, okay. See, I love trains. Both my grandfathers worked on trains, so I have So it's like I've always grown up with a love for trains. So that's one of the reasons that Hearts of Steel appealed to me so much. But it's like it actually is really cool to see him have a different alternate mode. With the World War II era kind of hot rod kind of looking thing. So
as great as it would have been to have like a train driving around the streets of San Francisco.
Yes, I would have loved that so much.
It's interesting that he has new car kibble, but he also still has the train boiler and chimney kibble on his shoulders as well.
Yeah. And they add that cowcatcher faceplate to it, which is which I love. I mean, to me, that's the thing that really made me Oh, I love this.
It's a nice addition.
Yeah. And it helps him, because that's saying, because clearly Centurion's going to be sticking around. So I like
it does seem
sort
right,
of,
doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we know he's at least going to stick around through First Strike because
we'll get to that later, I suppose. But
yeah, he's on that cover, so he's going to be sticking around. So if Bumblebee ever gets out of that singularity, it's like, now we have two distinct faces for them. So
I suppose he could go back to that white color from the beginning as well if they wanted to differentiate him more.
Yeah, true. And of course, we also get a little hint towards the fate of Sergeant Savage, who ends up disappearing with the Axelon when it gets transported to Bosnia. So
it's IDW's version of because for those unaware, Sergeant Savage basically has Captain America's backstory. His whole thing in the original toy line was Sergeant Savage and his Screaming Eagles was that he fought in World War II and then was, I think, frozen, and then wakes up in the 90s.
He was cryogenically frozen. He didn't crash into freezing waters.
Frozen, wakes up in the 90s.
And he is genetically modified to be a super soldier. That is literally in the backstory.
Even as well, yeah.
So this is he's basically Captain America, but with more Nick Fury in him. So so we get to see some hints towards that, which we're gonna see. Apparently, we're gonna see in Revolutionaries numbers in 6, because the teaser for the next issue in the comic has the big Screaming Eagles stuff.
That cover though. That was probably a cover that was intended for the 7 story.
Yeah.
Because this issue, of course, has 2 covers. Both the subscription covers for this issue have got M.A.S.K on them, who are in next issue. We mentioned this last time we talked about Revolutionaries, I think. But there was some jiggery-pokery with Revolutionaries issue order that has ended up messing around some of the covers. So I think 7 is going to be the Sergeant Savage issue, and then next issue is the Atomic Man issue.
Yeah, but we might still get some hints towards what happened with Savage. That was just half the comic, by the way. That whole discussion was pretty much just half the comic. Let's talk about the modern day bits. So it's a much simpler story. It's basically the Revolutionaries going after Tomax, who literally ends up dressing exactly like 1992 or 1982 Cobra Commander.
Oh yeah, which hasn't been used in IDW continuity before, I'll point out, for those that haven't read IDW Joe. All the previous Cobra Commanders have had kind of original designs. They've not used the kind of silk mask with kind of
blue overcoat
and the coat.
Yeah. So first off, I want to say putting Tomax in this specific costume really threw me off, because as soon as I saw him on as soon as I saw him after I turned that page, it was like I couldn't help but read it in that Chris Latta. If Krieger and Ironblood think Tomax Paoli is going down without a fight, well, they don't know me very well, do they? I apologize for the terrible Chris Latta impression. But it just and I had to readjust myself. Wait, no, this is Tomax. So, and I had to read it in my Tomax voice. So,
I liked it. I liked it as a choice just because I hugely enjoy the narrative bullying Tomax constantly, and just putting him in the goofiest possible Cobra Commander costume appealed to me for those reasons.
Yeah.
IDW Tomax is a terrible person, so just having him be a complete schmuck in this issue is enjoyable.
But I do hope that he gets his own. If he's gonna stay Cobra Commander, since the helmet is apparently stuck on him and will explode if he removes it, I do hope he gets his own threads. Something that maybe something a bit more closer to that old, like the costume that virtual Tomax was wearing last issue with the Cobra Commander mask. Something like that.
If it was Tomax's choice, I think it would probably be a business suit with some kind of helmet.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Tomax likes to think. Yes, he's very proper and smart and stylish.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it's like making Tomax sort of permanently the Cobra Commander is a nice little idea because let's face it, Tomax and Xamot, you can't really have Tomax and Xamot because Xamot's kind of dead.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's very dead.
Yeah, he's super dead. So sort of just taking Tomax and making him full-on Cobra Commander is actually a not bad idea to sort of, to do that with the character.
Yeah.
Most
one thing I did hugely enjoy, though, in the present-day sequences is just the constant use of Action Man as a victim for slapstick gags. It works fantastically. He's a brilliant slapstick victim.
Yes. That was really cool. And of course we got to see I like how BlackRock they're sort of making him almost Iron Man-esque, which I know is ironic for BlackRock, since he's basically Tony Stark.
Yeah.
But how he keeps going back to having a human head with the robot body. So it's like he took off a helmet, except he literally changed his face. It's I love that. And it's he's hacking and all that, and then it's and then there's that brilliant shot of when he discovers it was Onyx Prime. He's just Onyx Prime was responsible. I hate that guy. He's the guy that made me. Let's go punch. And he just flies off, and he's and he is he's just so pissed. And it's you want Earth Onyx, then get through Garrison Blackrock. And it's okay, that is Garrison Blackrock's badass moment of the issue. It's I loved it. It was awesome. So yeah, and of course Mayday is great. Action Man is great. Cup is awesome. And I really did like the Centurion dynamic with when he attacks Cup, and he's all you Decepticon, because to Centurion, in his faulty memories, he sort of has gone through his entire life since crashing on Earth, sort of thinking that there's some that all Cybertronians was just him and his crew that were all part of some sick experiment. He doesn't even know that there's a whole city out there going on. That he probably doesn't even know about Autobot City or any of that. Because Krieger has probably been keeping him sort of shut in and not really aware of the whole world event. So he probably doesn't even know about the revolution and all that happened.
Oh gosh, I've just noticed something about Centurion. For the bulk of the issue, and in the present day issue, until he calms down, he uses square speech bubbles, the same ones which were used in the original Hearts of Steel miniseries.
Oh my gosh! I didn't notice that either. Holy crap!
Well, that's cute.
Huh. Okay. So yeah. Also, what did you think about the end page?
That. I think. I mean, I guess we had reason to expect that, Atomic Man was still alive and was going to turn up in issue 6. But, it doesn't look pleasant what's happening to her on that last page, certainly.
Yeah, so this thing, to me, I was originally thinking that Project Iceman was going to be, Atomic Man, when we first, got it mentioned. Then, of course, the end reveal at the end of the last issue happened, and I was oh, Project Iceman is Optimus Prime, is the Hearts of Steel Optimus Prime. But now I'm starting to think. I'm trying to figure. Like, I'm starting to go back to my first theory that.
Well, yeah, it does
Project
seem like
Iceman
is Atomic Man.
But now I just realized it could also Project Iceman could also refer to Sergeant Savage, who was on ice.
That is also true.
So I have no idea what Project Iceman is actually going to be now. So that's going to get answered, but it's like it's definitely leaving some questions of what they were referring to as Project Iceman. So yeah, I'm excited to see this thing. I really like the Adventure Team, and I really like the whole concept of them. So I really am looking forward to seeing the Atomic Man and seeing sort of what happened to him after the Secret of the Mummy's Tomb.
Yeah, I'm intrigued that he looks so young, because like Krieger is kind of like equally old, but then he is kind of clearly pretty old and rammed full of kind of cybernetics.
Yeah.
Whereas, Atomic Man seems reasonably young. Maybe being like upgraded by the Talisman will do that for you.
Yeah, it's also hard to know, like with Fico's art, if he was supposed to be young or not, or.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe I read those as wrinkles, but like he's not gone grey, certainly.
Yeah. Oh, certainly not. Not like Colton and not like Mayhem. So. Or Ruby. I mean, they're, with the exception of Stalker. Heck, even Stalker's got a few grays on him.
Yeah.
But
then, Stalker was very young there in the first place, wasn't
he? Yeah. So it's. So maybe that does. Maybe you picked something up. Maybe the Talisman extended his. Or he's been kept, like I said, on ice.
Stasis. Yeah.
Yeah, in stasis, and that's been slowing his aging. So.
Yeah, it seems currently like X and Storm Shadow will be in the next issue in some significant capacity, because they've been sort of absent in issue 2 mostly.
Yay, more Mercy. I love Mercy.
And yeah, like, I assume the question of, like, maybe who Storm Shadow isn't really a question, and she's just some ninja. But kind of the fact that, she has gone kind of...
I feel like she has to be somebody, though.
So long. You do have to wonder, yeah.
She's got to be somebody. I feel like she just has to be someone. There has to be some significance. Even if she's a new character, there has to be some significance as to who she is. She's either, like a member of the Arashikage or someone. Like she has to be. She can't just be a rando. It's like. Yeah. So, I think that just about covers everything in literally everything in Revolutionaries number 5, though. So, as usual, I think Revolutionaries was probably the longest segment of this podcast. So yeah. All right, and something we did not expect until literally last week, like last Wednesday. First Strike number 0. Now, this is something that, like, my comic book store, like when I went to get this from my comic book store, like, the owner said, this came out of nowhere. Like, they didn't even know this was happening until, like, a week ago. So it's like...
Because, I believe it was shipped directly from IDW to retailers without sort of Diamond's involvement. It's all like entirely outside of the normal channels. It was shipped to retailers direct from IDW and is only available digitally direct from IDW. I mean, I expect it will probably turn up on Comixology and places eventually, I would assume. Like Revolution Zero did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, but before we get started with the recap, of course we do spoil everything that happens in these comics. But this is kind of an early release of because the First Strike event doesn't even happen until August. So we will say, if you want,
in practice, it will probably come out in September. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, but it's June and it's supposed to start in August. So we will say there's some plot developments in here that are kind of They're kind of spoilery, so
it's also hard to tell.
Maybe they're spoilery. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we will give you a fair warning to, if you don't want to know some big happenings that could reveal stuff in Revolutionaries or in other comics, skip this discussion. But Callum, why don't you recap the First Strike number 0?
So we have. So there's almost 2 parts to this issue. There is a 4-page First Strike 0 story, and then also a 4-page preview of First Strike number 1. But the 0 prelude opens with Joe Colton has turned up.
What?
Apparently, has turned up on General Blitz's doorstep with a hand. Having apparently just cut off his hand to avoid a diarrhea infection, and so two guys here have themselves a little conversation.
So, do we, okay, so the first things first, let's just go ahead and address this. Joe Colton.
How is he alive? What? Huh?
Yeah, so... It's given no indication, which, so... It's that's the thing, he just randomly shows up alive, and there's no real indication about sort of what is, how he's alive. It just explains that, there's, diarrhea biomatter in him, and it's but that's it as far as, how is he alive?
Well, we can tell that, he's clearly chopped off he clearly got his hand diarrheaed and then chopped it off. But, that does not answer the bigger question of what is he doing alive, because that's the thing, of course, is that IDW diarrheids don't lock their victims up in a cupboard in their kind of vest and boxer shorts. They infect them basically and become them.
Yeah.
So how is Joe Colton alive? That's very interesting question.
And see, here's the interesting thing, is shortly before this issue came out, there was, shortly before this issue came out, you read that interview with Marguerite Scott, which seemed to spoil the identity of Baron Ironblood.
It said, this interview declares that, Joe Colton is leading an invasion of Cybertron, and previous solicits had said Baron Ironblood is invading Cybertron. So I was like,
And so, if you recall, in a previous episode, we had talked about Baron Ironblood's identity being spoiled. Then the implication was that Joe Colton was going to be Baron Ironblood, and that's how I was saying I have no idea how this will happen, how this will work. But as I noticed in later covers, Joe Colton is wearing a uniform that appears on a cover next to Baron Ironblood.
And equally, here, this story here seems to suggest that, Blitz and Colton have not been, Colton has shown up out of the blue to come visit Blitz, rather than where Blitz has been working with Baron Ironblood on a regular basis in Revolutionaries. So just, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah, it's hard to know. But I don't think Joe Colton is Baron Ironblood. Unless this flashback is super far before Revolutionaries. But even then, that would contradict Action Man, which said that Baron Ironblood was around prior to Revolution. So
it can't be. It's got to be after Revolutionaries, because they've got Blitzwing here,
and they've got the talisman.
It's in G.I. Joe headquarters. They've got the talisman. Yeah.
So clearly this is after Revolutionaries. which means Joe Colton cannot be Baron Ironblood.
Well, you have to assume, unless the only way I can see it happening is if just this issue is deliberately worded to make it seem like Joe Colton has turned up out of the blue to come visit General Blitz, and that they've not been hanging around together, but actually they have. But if Joe Colton is Baron Ironblood, this issue is being deliberately deceptive about it.
Yeah,
which I guess makes sense.
Which, if so, I mean, clever, because I don't... But at this point, like, taking everything at face value, I don't think Colton can be Baron Ironblood, so... But, yeah. But, I will say this. I did like this little, 4-page little story. That's thing. We had gotten hints towards Colton sort of seeing the best in his heroes, because Colton was a fan of Sergeant Savage, and Blitz was one of the Screaming Eagles. So with this, we sort of, we get sort of that, we get some hints towards that whole, I used to look up to you kind of thing from between Colton and Blitz. And I kind of liked that dynamic, and I want to see more of this going forward into First Strike. So we also we get to see Blitzwing back again.
Yeah,
who just friggin' disappeared.
I do remember just it feeling kind of vaguely depressing that Action Man kind of rescuing Cup during Revolution, whilst Blitzwing was presumably literally next door, still being vivisected.
Yeah.
Poor Blitzwing.
Yeah.
He's still being tortured.
Yeah. And, of course, the big thing that gets mentioned in this, which we'll touch on in just a minute, but was the fact that General Krieger asks Colton if he believes in magic. We'll come back to that in just a second. We also get, of course, like we said, we also get a sneak preview of First Strike #1. It's essentially the first 4 pages. And we get to see who seems to be the representative of Earth in the Cybertron Council of Worlds. And it seems to be Marissa and what looks like Flint.
Well, I mean, they're turning up for the ceremony, but I don't know that they're necessarily they're the representatives, are they? Because
really? Okay.
It seems like there's a bunch of people turning up for the kind of opening ceremony. I couldn't have, at least was how I read it.
Okay, maybe. To me, that seemed to indicate that Marissa was gonna be the. But I don't know. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe they still have to present the representative. But it's it's a nice little fun little sort of parody of red carpet events. All the Joes are back at headquarters, watching it, watching events unfold. Marissa gets asked who she is wearing, and apparently that means something much different on Cybertron.
But Marissa's outfit is a Barber original. And another thing to note with this first page is that blooming Hashtag is the news reporter.
Yes.
Hashtag being a character from the Fred Van Lente G.I. Joe run.
Yes.
Who was,
one of the few Joe runs I actually have read something from.
Yeah. This kind of young reporter that's attached to the G.I. Joe team after they become sort of public superheroes at the start of that volume. And she is now apparently a news reporter. And
or at least she's
hashtag, because that would be silly.
Yeah. But yes, it's good to see Hashtag back again. I kind of thought that character would just kind of be shoved to the side, never to be seen again, but no. And of course, we also get to see some more domestic kind of interactions between the Joes and Skywarp. So glad that's sticking around.
I've just now noticed as well in that first page, and kind of Till 1 spoilers here, like Onslaught and Windblade hanging out.
Yeah, chilling. They're hanging out.
Like, kind of suggests that what Starscream is up to with the Combaticons until 1 like doesn't explode horribly in his face. But then
hopefully, well, we'll see. You know, he's bounced back from worse, I'm sure.
And very nice Max Dunbar art. The Micronauts regular artist is doing First Strike and did the preview as well. Did the Zero story as well. And it's very nice.
Yeah, and of course the preview ends with Starscream about to address Cybertron and something exploding.
Yeah, like a great comic timing there. Like,
yes.
My fellow Cyber, and then it explodes.
Yes. And of course the issue ends with a checklist for the event, which also tells of what's going to happen in the future of the IDW Hasbro Universe. So
this brings us nicely onto some recent solicits, I suppose.
Yes. So we're in August. G.I. Joe, M.A.S.K, and Micronauts and ROM will all be ending, which we already knew.
Yeah.
And leading into First Strike #1 and #2. That is followed in September by First Strike 3 and 4,
which we have had advanced solicited already.
Yes, as well as Micronauts First Strike and G.I. Joe First Strike and Optimus Prime First Strike one-shots.
Which we've also had solicited already. There has been a lot of advanced solicits recently.
Yes. In October, we will see First Strike 5 and 6, along with a M.A.S.K First Strike one-shot, Revolutionaries First Strike one-shot, later changed to Transformers First Strike one-shot, and a ROM First Strike one-shot. Now, what's interesting is, based on the solicits, we know that essentially Micronauts and ROM, G.I. Joe and M.A.S.K, and Optimus Prime and Revolutionaries / Transformers will all be telling two-part stories, just like I predicted an episode ago. What up? Go me.
Yeah.
Go me.
Yeah, that's it.
I called it.
Yeah, turned out exactly as foreseen.
Yes.
And so we know now from the solicits the creative teams as well. So the Joe and M.A.S.K story will be Aubrey Citizen, the regular Joe writer, and
he's a great writer.
Yep. So yeah, I'm very glad that he is doing both issues of this, which is it's nice that these two parters are going to have a consistent creative team between the two parts. Yeah. And then art by Elias Kyriazis.
Yes.
If I'm pronouncing that right.
Actually,
speaking of that, he has an amazing vertically stacking combining covers for those two issues. Posted those to our Twitter account.
It's so pretty.
Last week, by the time you're listening to this, but go look at those covers.
It's so
I don't know,
pretty.
How have people not done those, especially on Transformers, which has got talking robots in it?
I know.
How has that not been done before? It's so good.
And I really hope we get more of those for the other stories.
Yeah.
It's because it's so pretty. It's so pretty. I love connecting covers, and I really love vertical connecting covers. So it's it's everything.
So actually, so I've got the solicits here. So G.I. Joe and M.A.S.K appears to be as Scarlet heads off to Cybertron to confront the events of First Strike, her G.I. Joe team on Earth faces an unusual enemy, Venom. With the help of a former M.A.S.K member, G.I. Joe looks to put an end to Miles Mayhem's sinister group once and for all in the greatest crossover one-shot of all time. And then continuing, Venom's showdown with the G.I. Joe team continues as transforming vehicles, robotic ninjas, and explosions threaten to bring the mission to a deadly end. So I am looking forward to this. Aubrey Citizen will almost certainly have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and it's weird that it just seems to indicate a G.I. Joe, or a M.A.S.K member, a former M.A.S.K member at that.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's like, okay, so, but we're getting Venom. So, basically, we're getting the most interesting part of M.A.S.K in these issues. Heck yes, I am all for that.
Yeah, all for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it's like, I don't know, hopefully it's not Matt Tracker. Hopefully it's like Brad or someone.
I was going to say, what if it's Brad and like he leaves M.A.S.K because he's upset no one noticed Zartan replaced him.
Yeah,
So then we've also got Micronauts and Rom form a two-parter. So Rom, remaining on Earth as the events of First Strike takes place, finds himself in a most unusual team-up with Earth's smallest heroes, the Micronauts. Together, these two forces must prevent a catastrophe on Earth, even whilst Cybertron descends into chaos. And then Rom's team-up with the Micronauts leads our heroes right to the Dire Wraiths and their new microscopic threat. So I'm interested in what's going on there. Like, tiny Dire Wraiths?
Or tiny Rom.
Well, yeah. Do the Dire Wraiths have a shrink ray?
Oh my god.
Shrink ray story.
Yes. Who's the creative team on that?
Oh, that is... it is Christos Gage, so one of the regular ROM co-writers, along with Chris Panda, who I want to say has done covers or something, maybe? The name sounds familiar. He's not done any Hasbro interiors before, I don't think.
We are getting the ROM writer, but we're not getting any of the Micronauts writers back.
No, it is, it is.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I guess to be fair, if we didn't have a problem with Easton not coming back for the Joe story, I guess that's only fair that we don't get. And then of course we get Optimus Prime and Revolutionaries, which is later called Transformers, probably for marquee value, which is written by John Barber. So, and
with art by Guido Guidi is back again.
Yeah,
two full interiors from Guido is going to be nice.
Which makes sense because we saw from the cover of the First Strike Optimus Prime tie-in that Centurion is coming back. So we know.
Yeah. So, with Cybertron under siege by Baron Ironblood's forces, Optimus Prime and RC defend their homeland. Caught in the middle is the human transformer team known as the Revolutionaries, and one of them has a secret that puts everyone at risk. And then when a bounty hunter drags one of their own into the wilds of Cybertron, the Revolutionaries join forces with RC and pursue. But in the midst of war, can humans and Cybertronians put aside their differences, or has the invasion of Cybertron doomed any chance at peace?
Yeah.
See, I'm interested. I'm glad that we're getting sort of more Revolutionaries, as in like the gang.
Definitely. And that great cover of RC and Iona Jones
Sarah cover,
up.
lovely.
Great. Yes. So anyways, but after the First Strike event is the big thing. So after First Strike, we will get after all the series ends, we will be getting 3 new titles. Yes. G.I. Joe Unmasked, which will team G.I. Joe and M.A.S.K together. Although apparently, I think I saw Aubrey tweet that it'll just be one member of M.A.S.K, so who knows if it's all of them or just the one that joins them in the First Strike event.
Well,
and then in December, Rom and the Micronauts. So essentially, they're consolidating 2 of the books into a single book. This has definitely gotten some mixed reaction, and I gotta be honest, as a fan of Rom, I'm not really loving that he has to share a book with the Micronauts. I like the Micronauts just fine, but it's like this is baggage to his stories, and I don't really know if it's going to work all that well. I have less of a problem with G.I. Joe Unmasked because M.A.S.K is terrible, and maybe we should give those characters to an actually good writer to do some good stories with.
Because that does raise an interesting question about the creative teams. Are the creative teams for these First Strike one-shots kind of a preview, effectively, of these new ongoings? Because I believe I think I was looking up the new artist on doing the Joe and M.A.S.K one-shots on social media, and I think he had tweeted something that implied he was going to be the new regular artist for Joe Unmasked.
Okay.
Like, it's suggesting that he had kind of more G.I. Joe work in his future almost.
Yeah.
So I could see that certainly having the same creative team. And then, I wonder if the same will be true of Ron and the Micronauts, whether that will be... Well, I mean, you'd assume Chris Ryle would still be coming back as well, I would guess. But, whether...
Yeah, just because he is such the ROM fanboy. So.
Oh, well, yes. No.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine that Chris Ryle would stop working on ROM.
Yeah. And, of course, but what did you think about the whole consolidating titles thing?
I think, I do absolutely get, the worry that kind of, it is going to end up derailing kind of the existing stories, but I think kind of what's making me sort of okay with it is the fact that, if the one-shots are anything to go by, the writing teams, certainly, that are going to carry over are going to be the writing teams that kind of still had kind of story to tell almost, in the Wrath of Kaza is very clearly going to kind of finish all of the story that Mike has been going on with, whereas Rom is clearly kind of like not going to be done by the end of his ongoing. So like I am imagining that it is essentially going to be basically what Rom would have been doing anyway, but the Micronauts are here and hanging out. Hopefully. So I get that kind of like certainly kind of I don't think certainly obvious, like if all these books have been selling like gangbusters, IDW wouldn't have done this. It is clearly a sort of okay, let's kind of regroup and kind of reconsolidate move, but I can't find myself getting too distraught about it right now, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I have faith in IDW, they've proven themselves, and hopefully this will just give hopefully the Micronauts won't distract too much from ROM, and honestly, I can only see good things happening for the M.A.S.K characters, so yeah. Lastly, we have a third title that will be launching, and it's under classified. It's typed out, but then has a whole classified written kind of stamped over it. However, with my brilliant deductive reasoning and that reference to magic that Krieger made, and of course the brilliant Photoshop work of our one and only Callum.
I actually did it in PowerPoint because I cannot use actual image editing software. PowerPoint has a remove background function. It's actually really useful.
Really? I didn't even know
image
that.
editing tip.
Okay, cool. But yes, we have concluded. We have the exclusive reveal. Drum roll, please. And I'll add the drum roll in post. Visionaries is coming from IDW this December.
I mean, technically it's not officially confirmed, but it absolutely says Visionaries under that classified stamp. So unless they're messing with us, and that would be hilarious if they had put Visionaries under the stamp and then it wasn't actually Visionaries.
If it's not Visionaries, I will eat my hat. I will literally eat a hat.
It's Visionaries. It's clearly Visionaries.
Yes. And looking back on it, I think at least, the talisman is going to be the key to Visionaries, because not only does Krieger describe the talisman as magic, but if you'll recall, when Krieger discovered the talisman back in issue 3 of Revolutionaries in the tomb of Amtoltec, there was the Visionaries hexagon symbol of Leoric painted on
sort of
the hieroglyphs.
Chest plate. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you flip the talisman upside down, it has that same exact shape.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not. And not only that, but, and maybe this is going too conspiracy theory, but not only that, but the talisman has a connection to Onyx Prime. And Onyx Prime was the Beast Prime. What do all of the Visionaries, all of the Knights of the Magical Light have on their sigils? Animals!
Yeah. Like,
it
this
all
is...
friggin' fits.
You can very easily see how you would kind of, explain that... Well, I suppose, you would go from it being kind of weird that the, Eukaryotes all have Earth beast modes to having to explain why Prismos has got Earth animals. But, either way, you can see really obviously how you make a link there. Some kind of encounter between Eucharis and Prismos beasts. Yeah, it all fits together.
Yes. So pretty much like that's the big thing that we get from this is the revelation of G.I. Joe Unmasked and Rom and the Micronauts. And also, what looks like Visionaries will be soon joining the Hasbro Universe, which I'm excited about. I don't know Visionaries. I don't care about Visionaries, but but I will say this, just the idea of having a magic-based title, whereas everything else is very much rooted in science fiction, or science and sci-fi and all that. It's like, let's get a fantasy title up in here. Let's bring that that whole magic into the Hasbro universe. Let's see an alien world that isn't Cybertron. It's like let's get that's saying Rom, his planet got destroyed. The microspace is gone. It's pretty much everyone is on Earth or on Cybertron. Let's venture out into the rest of the cosmos and let's see more of this universe. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and because of course as well, the fact that they are introducing a new franchise for kind of phase 2 almost of the Hasbro Universe. It makes me wonder again. Are the Inhumanoids going to be the villains for G.I. Joe Unmasked? Because the final arcs of both the G.I. Joe and M.A.S.K. separate books, both their final arcs have got them fighting underground monsters. So, is that going to be a deliberate lead-in to them fighting the Inhumanoids in their team-up book?
Dude, you're totally right. I think you're totally right. I think you're spot on.
Because...
Yes.
Before, just the fact that they were apparently both fighting underground monsters seemed kind of odd, and why are they both doing that at the same time? But then now with the revelation that they're going to be teaming up for a new comic, you have to start wondering, okay, wait, no, is this a deliberate lead-in now to, them fighting the Inhumanoids in their team-up book? And
that
of course,
would be awesome.
Having the Inhumanoids as baddies in someone else's book neatly solves the problem that you couldn't release a comic called Inhumanoids because Hasbro lost the trademark.
Yeah.
Because, they could still be called Inhumanoids on the comic page because you don't need to trademark. You don't need a trademark on just names you're using in a story. I mean, I suppose it's possible Hasbro might, I guess, insist on them using beasts of Primordia in the same way that they've insisted on IDWs and Slug and Trail Cutter and things. But again, those were IDW didn't have to use those names. That was Hasbro asking them to do that for kind of brand synergy. So it is possible that the Inhumanoids could be called the Inhumanoids within the pages of G.I. Joe Unmasked.
Yeah.
That is certainly my working theory.
Yeah, so... Yeah. We've definitely got a lot to look forward to with the First Strike event and the subsequent fallout. And of course, this... And of course, we failed to mention it, but this comic you can get, right now, for free.
Oh, yes.
It on IDW's website. And we'll provide a link in the description of this episode. It's not, like, that's the thing. There is not really much to it except for, like, that's the thing. It's 8 pages of story, half of which is going to be in First Strike #1. So I fully expect, like, the first few pages to be reprinted the same way that the Revolution...
They'll stick them in the back like they did Revolution.
Yeah. So it's like, so do you need to go out to your comic book store and get it? Probably not, but I think it's, if you're curious, if you want to, like, see it, it's definitely worth worth a download from IDW's website. So, but that will just about wrap it up for this episode of the podcast. We have actually been recording for 2 hours and 42 minutes at this point.
Goodness me, we have. Yeah.
We should probably be getting out of here. Who knows? honestly, who knows if that First Strike will even... Who knows? I might split that off into another bonus episode, because,
True.
We have so much... Because I think we have enough for... We have at least half an hour's worth of
that is a good
First Strike talk, so... I'm Daniel. You can find me on Twitter at Daniel Adkins PRD. That's Adkins with a D, not a T. I'm very particular about that. You can also find me around the internet. I do YouTube videos where I talk about comics in my main series, Issue to Issue, where I take a look at comics with a critical English major kind of eye. I also will just do random vlogs. When you listen to this, I will have been getting back from Heroes Con, where I will be able to talk with some great people, including Jim Shooter, one of the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics back when the original Micronauts and ROM Space Knight series were done. So who knows? That interview might get released through this podcast. So, look forward to that. But yeah, you can find me around Tumblr. I'm on the Transformers forums, like the AllSpark, Sabertron, TFW 2005, all that kind of stuff. You can pretty much find me anywhere on the internet. Just Daniel Adkins.
Yeah, so, and likewise, I am Jala Guy, Jala Guy, all over the internet. All sorts of places, Twitter, Tumblr, AllSpark, Transformers Wiki, the IDW Hasbro Wiki. I have my fingers in many pies, and you can find me in many places.
Yeah. So, I'm also an editor on the IDW Hasbro Wiki, so, And, of course, you can continue to follow this podcast on Twitter at HasbroU Podcast. You can find us on Libsyn at HasbroUniverse.libsyn.com. You can find us on iTunes. Leave us a review on iTunes. It's the best way to help us out. You can find us on Google Play. And I think that's all the formats that we're on. I don't think we're on, like, Stitcher yet. I should probably get on that. But yeah, and you can, follow us on Twitter. We're always interacting with people on Twitter, where you can see us, retweet all the news and everything that's coming out about the Hasbro Universe. So thank you for joining us on another episode, and we will see you all next time.
See ya!